Hey everyone, and welcome back to FSI DFS. I am McKinley412, and today we're going to be breaking down the 4-game early slate on Draftkings in the afternoon. We're going to have a separate video out for the main slate happening later on in the night, but for now, just the short 4-game slate happening earlier on. One good thing about this 4-game slate is that unlike yesterday, I expect all of these games to play. There is a minor rain risk in New York, but we're only talking 10 to 20% chance of rain. So I don't think it's going to be impacted at all. I think pitching is going to be just fine for that game, so no worries about that. But as always, make sure you're keeping up to the minute on weather as well as COVID-related news. We've been lucky this year. There hasn't really been too much, but you never know when those things are going to crop up. So right up at the top, Gerrit Cole, and he is kind of separate from everybody else on this list. You can kind of see pitching on this slate is pretty gross. So Gerrit Cole, right up at the top, 37% strikeout rate. You guys don't need me to tell you how good this guy is. He's going up against Tampa Bay, while they do have some power in their bats, they also strike out a lot. They're a top 5 strikeout team in the league. Against right-handed pitching, they're 6th overall with a 26% strikeout rate. So they struggle against right-handed pitching. Cole should be able to rack up the Ks in this one without too much issue. 11.2 is a lot of salary to spend on pitching, but I think it's needed here, just given the other pitchers on the slate, and because I do think that there is some nice value on the slate as well. Below him, you have Jon Gray pitching in Coors Field, which could be scary for most pitchers, but looking at the splits for Jon Gray here so far this season, 7 starts in Coors Field, and he's averaging 20 DK points. That's just amazing. He's got an ERA of 2.36 at home. It's on the road where he's really struggling, and his numbers are all being inflated. But at home, he's been a great pitcher, going up against a Texas team who can struggle. Obviously, again, Coors Field should throw a little concern in whenever you're selecting a pitcher in Coors Field, but I don't think he's going to have too much issue here. One concern that I do have with Jon Gray, though, is his strikeout percentage. He just does not strike out many guys. He has a 19% strikeout rate on the season. And you can see in his past 3 starts, he only has 6 strikeouts. That's it. So that is definitely concerning. Texas does strike out quite a bit, but it's not monumental or anything. So maybe Jon Gray gets like 4 or 5 strikeouts this game. At 9.2, he's got a serious salary increase compared to where he was. You can see he was 6.7K in his last start. But again, compared to the other pitchers on this slate, maybe you want to pay up for Jon Gray in cash games just because everybody else is pretty gross. And now we get to everybody else. Odorizzi and Perez, they're facing off against each other in the game in Houston. Both of them have subpar strikeout percentages. Both are going up against elite offenses. So I'm not too interested in either of them. If I did have to pick one of them, I'd probably lean. I don't even know. They both just struggle. They both struggle. I think I would lean Odorizzi just because the Houston bats are so good against I'm blanking here. So good against left-handed pitching. I was like, what pitch hand is Perez? Against left-handed pitching. So I would lean the Houston bats, meaning I would lean Odorizzi over Perez. YARBROUGH, DK has him in here. I can't guarantee that he's starting just because no other site has him as the starting pitcher. No confirmed starting pitcher here for Tampa Bay yet. I recorded these the night before. But if it is him pitching, the Yankees bats have struggled so far this season. They are, in terms of runs scored per game, they rank 27th in the league, which is just incredible. If you look up and down their lineup, on paper, this offense is good to great. And they are a bottom 5 offense in terms of runs scored. They get on base, but they ground into double plays more than anybody else in the league. So again, I don't know if YARBROUGH is actually starting here, but you can kind of see he's done pretty well in his limited time pitching so far this season. He had a little start against New York earlier. He went 3 innings, 2 hits against, no earned runs for 14 DK. Faced New York earlier on in the season, went 18 DK. So 7.3, maybe if you need that extra savings down from Gray at 2,000, it really helps you out in your lineup. Maybe you can make the case for YARBROUGH there just because the Yankees have been struggling. Corbin and Wilson, I want neither of those guys, and FOLTYNEWICZ pitching in Coors, same thing. You know, once you get below 6K, you're really not expecting much from your pitcher at all, and you'd be happy with like a 10-point game or 10 to 15 points. But is he going to get there against a Colorado team that is top 3 in the league in runs scored at home in their home ballpark? Probably not. Probably not. So it's Gerrit Cole at the top. You're just going to jam him into your cash lineups. John Gray, probably going to be there as well. If you need some savings, maybe go down to YARBROUGH. But again, I'm not certain he's going to be starting. DK is the only site right now that has YARBROUGH officially, or I guess probable, to start here. Everybody else is still to be determined. So let's look at the bats. My favorite bats on the slate are the Atlanta bats here. They score 5.3 runs at home, and I wrote down all their stats here because it is just amazing what they do against left-handed pitching here, like Corbin. Okay, so Atlanta has a 141 WRC plus, meaning that they are 41% better than the average team against left-handed pitching. Now, this is just for the month of May. I don't like to do the entire season just because injuries come and go. So this is just for the month of May, the past 4 weeks. 141 WRC plus. They have a 298 batting average as a team. You know, and this is including the pitchers that are pitching hitting in the National League parks. 298 batting average, a 384 WOBA, a 261 ISO, 560 slugging percentage, a 905 on base plus slugging percentage. They are first in every single one of those categories. The only offensive category that they are not first in is on base percentage, where they rank second. So the Atlanta offense is just smashing left-handed pitching right now. And Corbin, while he has had some nice games so far this season, he also can get destroyed. You can remember earlier on in the season when he faced Arizona, he let up like 10 runs before the game even really started. So Atlanta is my top play here, and they do have some decent value in there. Guys like Adrianza, make sure he is starting. Make sure he's starting. Heredia at 2.8K. Both those guys are sub 3. Even Riley and Swanson at 3.9 are way too cheap in my opinion for their ability to hit the ball and just the matchup that they are in. So I love Atlanta. My number 1 stack on the day here. Number 2, I'm going to go, well, it's kind of 2A and 2B. I couldn't decide which one I liked more. But Houston going up against Perez. I mentioned earlier how Houston does great against left-handed pitching. Atlanta's number 1 in pretty much everything. Houston is pretty much number 2 in every single category. Atlanta's second in on-base percentage, and that's because Houston is number 1. So Houston in the month of May is destroying left-handed pitching here. So I love Houston in this matchup going up against Perez, who has pitched well. If we're being real here, he has pitched well lately, but I still think the Houston bats are going to get to him. If I was playing the Houston bats, I definitely want a piece of GERRIT here at 4.1K. Even McCormick at 2.7. He's on a nice little stretch here at 2.7. You know, he's hit for home runs. He can also steal a base. So he's got some nice upside there at 2.7. Won't hurt your salary too much. So Houston, they're going to be right there at 2A, and then 2B, I'm going to go with Colorado. I have to. Anytime the Rockies are at home, they have to definitely be on your radar. They are averaging close to 6 runs a game at home. They have the 3rd best home offense in the entire league in terms of runs scored per game. And now they're going up against FOLTYNEWICZ, who can struggle mightily. FOLTYNEWICZ only has a 16% strikeout rate so far this season. So he's not striking anybody out. The one concern, though, is Colorado really does struggle against right-handed pitching. So I think their WRC plus, when I looked, it was at like 73. Like I had to scroll way down. They were near the bottom. Now they played a lot of road games in the month of May, so that could skew the numbers a little bit, just because of how different of an offense they are at home compared to away. But I don't really have too much concern with them. I think they're going to be a solid play, definitely a top 3 play on this short slate. They also have some nice value here. A guy like Jonathan Daza, he's hitting over 300 this season, and he's 3.2K. You know, these Colorado bats have struggled in the past week or so, but they just got back from a long road trip. And again, they really struggle on the road. They're like one of the worst offenses in the league on the road. But at home, they're a top 3 offense in terms of runs generated per game. So it's pretty amazing their splits. So let's do some quick roster lineup building here just to kind of show you where things kind of land. If you were to play the safe route and you go Gerrit Cole and Jon Gray, I say safe with Jon Gray and Coors just because compared to everybody else, I think he has to be an SP2 consideration. And then first team that I want to target in cash is probably going to be Atlanta. And like I mentioned earlier, Atlanta is my number 1 team that I want to stack here. So if you went top 2 pitchers and then you went like top 3 batters for Atlanta here, it's going to be near impossible, or you're just probably not going to like it at all. So you're probably not going to get all 3 of them. You might be able to get 2 out of the 3 of those bats without too much trouble. If you want to kind of separate yourself from the pack, but still have a popular team stack, I think Atlanta's going to be popular. You can move farther down in the lineup and go for like the 4 through 8 hitters. So guys like Riley, guys like Swanson, Heredia that I mentioned earlier, Adrianza, making sure that he's starting. You put those guys in middle to lower part of the order, you can really separate yourself from that Acuna and Freeman chalk that's probably going to be very popular. And you're still looking at 4,000 remaining. That's even with the top 2 pitchers here. So I think Atlanta, top stack of the day. Probably you're not going to get the 3 studs, but maybe you can get them if you bump down to a guy like YARBROUGH. So if you take out Gray, you put in YARBROUGH here, and you really, really want those 3 top Atlanta bats, Acuna, Freeman, and Albies, you're looking at 3.2K. Maybe you then go over to Houston, like I mentioned earlier, and you throw in a guy like McCormick at 2.7. Now you're looking at 3.3, 3.4 remaining for the rest of your bats. It's not ideal having 2 pitchers from the same game, but we're on a very limited slate here with the number of games. And again, let me stress this, YARBROUGH, I'm not sure if he's 100% starting, so make sure you're checking this when you're building. So you could do that. If you really want, I think that's going to be a very popular cash start, at least, is going to be the Gerrit Cole, Jon Gray, and then some Atlanta bats. Houston, I don't think is going to be as popular. Same with Colorado. Ultimate GPP call here. It's going to be Folty pitching in Coors here. And it's strictly because of how bad the Colorado bats are against right-handed pitching. Okay, that's it. I'm not saying he's going to go ahead and strike out 10 Rockies bats. It's just not going to happen. Remember what I said. He has a 16% strikeout rate on the entire season. In his past 4 starts, he has 8 strikeouts. That's it. So I'm not expecting much out of him in terms of the strikeouts, but hey, these Colorado bats, they can't strike out. They do perform poorly against right-handed pitching at times. So deep GPP, Folty, and not even touching him in cash. Don't even think about it. So that kind of wraps up the slate here. It's pretty straightforward. Once you get in the 4-game slates, it's pretty easy to see where the ownership's going to project. So if you can kind of get around it and separate yourself, you can even go chalky with Atlanta and go like bottom of the order. I like Washington as well. I don't want to forget about them. Washington, I think they're in a great spot as well. Tampa Bay and New York. I think New York is very interesting just because of how bad they have been. I feel like a lot of people have really gotten off of them in terms of stacking them or even playing any of their hitters. So their ownership has really died down lately. But going against Tampa Bay, you never know. You always want to be the guy hopping on the train before anybody else. When you have these great teams on paper really struggling and the ownership drops, you want to be the first guy on the train when they finally do start to reach expectations here. So that kind of covers everything. Good luck in your contest this afternoon. Again, we have a separate video out for the main slate, so please make sure to go check that one out as well. But hit that thumbs up button, drop a comment down below. Who do you like in this slate here, GPP, those sorts of things. So thanks for watching, and good luck in your contest.